Welcome to the Rural Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Larson. This week on the podcast, we're on the farm in rural Madison County, Iowa with Matt and Naomi Hupton, founders of Pammel Park Coffee Company. Matt and Naomi are sharing about chasing a dream and why they chose Madison County as their place to relocate and start a family business, and how the coffee they started roasting in their garage has now become a local favorite. So here we go with Matt and Naomi Hupton. Well, we're here today with Matt and Naomi Hupton, sitting out here in rural Madison County, Iowa. Guys, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Very excited.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and your background so we can kind of know what led to this journey here with Pammel Park Coffee Company.
So it was about a year ago that we were here camping on the family farm it was actually our wedding anniversary. And we had been looking to make a move from Minneapolis to a rural area for quite some time. And we woke up one morning on our little camping adventure, and it all just became really clear that this is where we were supposed to be. And you know, walking around the farm and seeing the beauty of the farm and looking at the house and the barns and all the property here, we just started tossing around this idea of, you know, do you think this is where we could start a coffee roasting business? You know, should we move our family here? And that's really how it started, just a conversation. We put our house on the market just to see what would happen. It sold in, was it 2 days?
Yeah.
And, you know, full price offer, and they wanted a quick occupancy. So we turned around and started making plans to move our family and our life to Madison County.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were here first week in May. We sold our house the 4th of July, and we were basically completely moved in on August 15th.
18th,
like that.
yeah.
August 18th, just a little over a year ago.
Kids started school the following week, got a roof on the house and a septic system, and, you know, started renovating the house and the grounds and the barns and making a life here.
So this was my grandparents' farm, and it's been in our family since about 1917. And my grandfather actually grew up in a different house on the other side, on the gravel road here on the other side of the farm. So we spent a lot of time down here as kids, my brother and sister and my mom. My mother grew up in the house that we're living in now. But my grandfather died about, 8-9 years ago now. And even prior to that, my grandparents had a house in Winterset. So they were living in town, and, you know, they still raised horses and stuff out here, but they had rented the house out off and on over the years. But there had really been nobody here living for at least 15 years, I think. We have another cousin that farms the row crops here. But there was a lot of work. The house was kind of to the point where, you know, it was either going to have to come down or start to be rebuilt. And, you know, the maintenance out here in the country, you know, with the weather and everything, I mean, it's a lot. So we, you know, right before I think they finished the septic system the day before we moved in. So we had a roof and a septic system and running water, and that was about it. So we just kind of started piecing the barns back together, and you know, that was about a month later, I think, that we brought the roaster down from Minneapolis and had it set up in the garage. So we were actually roasting coffee in the garage all last winter before we had our license or anything. So we were basically just, you know, friends and family kind of thing, and trying to get the word out to, you know, as to what we were trying to do.
Absolutely. So, yeah, while you might be new to Madison County, you are definitely not new to the coffee business. Tell us a little bit about your career, Matt, and how that led to where you're at today.
Well, I was in school, I think, in mid 90s, 95, 96 at the University of Iowa. And then I left and came back to Des Moines, and I was actually working on a farm about 15 minutes south of here that my friend's family owned, still owns. And we were making hay, running cattle. He raises a lot of horses there. And so I did that for about 2 years, and I was living in Des Moines, commuting back and forth, and I was traveling around on the weekend, playing guitar in a West African band, which was all kind of surreal and strange. But that's a whole nother podcast at some point. Anyway, so my friends had started this importing company in Minneapolis around the same time, I think 94, 95. And so I had been in contact with them a little bit, and he said, well, if you ever want to come work with us, I'll get you a job working in the warehouse or whatever. And I think there was maybe 4 of them at the time. So I called him up from some bar that we were playing a gig at. I think it was like Dubuque, Iowa or something. And I said, do you still have that job? And he said, yeah. And so 1999, December, I moved up there. And my brother was living in Minneapolis also. So I crashed at his place for a little while, and then I slept on my friend's couch for a little while, and then we got an apartment. But I started working in the warehouse, throwing coffee bags, and we just kind of were trying to grow this business. And they kind of got into it at a good time when specialty coffee was just kind of emerging, coming from the West Coast and stuff. So we just kept doing that, and I worked in the warehouse for about a year, and then moved into the office and started doing all the accounting and import traffic, and the company really just grew, over the years, and I did that for about 18 years. So my background is really on the import side. We would sell, raw green coffee to companies like ours, small specialty roasters all over the place. So when I left there, I think they have, 50 employees today and offices all over the place. So that's kind of my background is on the import side. But all those years, I was always roasting coffee, either for sampling for the business, for tasting for the business, or simply for drinking in the office or at home. And the particular machine that we have here now, actually, I had been using since about, I don't know what year, 2004 maybe. So, 10, 12 years or something I've been roasting on that particular machine. So that's kind of the one that I wanted to bring with us, and everything just kind of worked out real quickly in the end there, and here we are.
That's great. Well, coffee roasting really is an art, and you've mastered it well because your coffees are amazing. And I really believe Iowa was waiting for something like this. So what kind of inspired you to pursue this more with an Iowa audience?
Well, we definitely saw a little bit of a void. I mean, obviously here in Winterset, there was nobody roasting coffee. We felt like it was something that we could do from home, so to speak, if we had the space, which we did here. So I mean, for me, it's kind of a dream job, and everybody that I always, in the business always wants to retire on a farm and roast coffee. And I mean, it's just, if you like coffee, that's kind of a natural gravitation in that direction. So,
I mean, I think that Madison County as a whole was just ripe for that kind of adventure. There's so much tourism, there's so much beauty, there's so many new upcoming businesses or people who are specifically coming to Madison County who might enjoy a really good cup of coffee. So it was about many things. It was about having the space to do it. It was about chasing a dream, and it was about the fact that Madison County had everything we felt like would make us successful. We're close to Des Moines. It's got the beautiful covered bridges. It's got all these other amazing venues and so much to do. And, just people come to Madison County just to see it. And also we're so close to Pammel Park. And for us, Matt especially, he grew up going to Pammel Park as a young boy with his family and his siblings and his grandparents. And the fact that we're right here, it just, that's why we chose this spot. It screamed, you need to be here. We're on a Covered Bridges Scenic Byway, which is a brand new attraction to this area. So it just every little single piece seemed to be absolutely right for this particular part of Iowa.
When we first moved here, we immediately kind of noticed the resurgence of some really cool independent businesses and even a lot of artists that had kind of relocated here. Either they'd come back here from being gone, or they stumbled upon Winterset or Madison County and decided to set up shop here. You've got the wineries. First Avenue Collective, which is a great little artist quarter there that we do a lot of projects with. And we just felt like, that it could work. And we didn't know. I mean, it's a huge risk, and we wanted to do it really small, and we wanted to focus on Madison County as our base. And we knew that if we can get the people in this area interested in what we're doing, then the rest will just kind of work itself out, but you got to have the community behind you and the other businesses in town. And we became friends and met a lot of them right out of the gate. Probably because they all like to drink coffee. I don't know, but they've been they've been super supportive, and we like to do the same for them. But without that, I don't know. I mean, the flip side is that we could be completely isolated out here and struggling and, spending all our money trying to get this business going and really be, failing. I mean, it's still difficult, but we've been really lucky to have, a lot of support and good reception here for our products. So.
Yeah, and you've established relationships with a lot of local grocers and businesses, and people can either find your coffee beans there or even your brewed coffee. I love that the theater in Winterset serves your brewed coffee. That's great. Mm-hmm. Special experience at the theater.
So yeah, we have to. Then you brought it up, so we definitely got to give a little shout out to the Iowa Theater and Mary Ann Fonz, because she was actually the first person in town to serve our coffee. And really kind of just supported us. She got us an article with the Madisonian, and so those are the kind of relationships that we're talking about. So the Iowa Theater in Winterset and then First Avenue Collective was actually the first place to sell our retail bags. So, and they've been doing it ever since. So,
and now they've got those awesome handbags they're doing for us. They're so talented. So, it's those partnerships where you can really start to think outside the box. And so Sarah from First Avenue Collective takes our coffee bags and turns them into these beautiful handbags, purses, little totes. And we partner a lot. The winery carries our coffee. We've done some of these farm-to-table dinners, which are such an amazing, magical experience, because people are coming to really get to know the farmers making, creating the food that's on their plate, and the chefs who take so much time to create a really beautiful meal, and then the coffee to finish it. And so it's all these little special events that make Madison County so unique that we really love to be a part of. We also do weddings and special events, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we loved having you be part of our Iowa Farm Dinner, and you got to be the dessert feature, so that was fun.
It was.
Well, you started off by selling coffee beans, and then now that has evolved into other things. So tell us more about that.
Well, our primary focus obviously is the wholesale business, because we really want to roast very nice coffees for restaurants, cafes, but also for grocery stores. And grocery stores are great because it allows us to get these coffees, directly in the hands of the consumer to enjoy at home. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag for us right now. All of those lines of business have their advantages. As far as the brewed coffee goes, we started doing that basically at the farmers market in Winterset. And it's really just the best way for us to put our product in front of people. And when they come to the booth and you've got 4 or 5 or 6 coffees lined up, we try to make sure that there's something on the table that is going to appeal to almost anyone who is serious about coffee drinking. So, that's the best way for us to sell coffee by the pound, or to get new businesses on board with us is to just have them taste it. So that kind of evolved into some of these farm to table things, and then we've done all kinds of events, at the cidery and the winery and all, basically any place that enjoys coffee and needs it for an event. At this point, we're kind of willing to. We're like right now we'll deliver air pots in town, for other businesses or whatever, if they've got something special going on. And again, it's all part of, the promo for the business. But we also just like sharing really good coffees with people. So, it's kind of evolved into that, since we've been licensed in June, to basically get our coffees in front of people.
Yeah, that's great. So what has the response been from the locals?
The response has been great. Like any business, obviously it's hard to get your name out. Sometimes you don't know even where to start. But for us, like I said, we were roasting coffee in our garage basically, and then we had so we decided one day to put up a little stand on the roadside here. Like people sell vegetables. Well, we have coffee, so we're going to sell coffee. And so the kids would go out there and sell bags of coffee. I think at that point we didn't even have a business name.
No, we didn't.
And so we would see a lot of traffic going to the park. This was the end of the summer, going into the fall. And like one of our first customers ended up being the campground host at Pammel Park. And he's been buying coffee from us ever since. Like he'll come by once a week. He's a good friend of ours, Larry Silverthorne. But those kind of relationships that we made in those first few months were really essential in building, the business that we have now, which is still very, very, very small. We have about 15 real accounts. And so we kind of hope to maybe double that in the next year. But we started out with just 4 coffees. And I think it was Kenya, Colombia,
Farmer's
Blend, which is kind of our take on a traditional breakfast blend coffee, and a Peru. Anyway, we wanted to keep things really simple. With these levels of coffee in terms of, freshness and quality, a lot of roasters will go into a lot of detail about the taste, the flavor profiles and the origin notes, with GPS coordinates and anything you can imagine. And we have all that information, but we really wanted to keep things simple for the market, and also just focus on the actual taste of the coffees. And so as people started to stop by and buy it out of our garage or the roadside stand, we kind of got a feel for what people liked in terms of flavor profile, roast levels, that kind of thing. And so we slowly started to expand in order to, give something for everyone in terms of flavor profile. So to answer the question, the reception has been great. And now we're just kind of in that phase where we're trying to go outside of Madison County a little bit and reach out to some, small coffee shops, cafes, restaurants, where we're kind of almost hand selecting our client base, just kind of based on our mutual, goals and how we like to do business. And the relationships are really like at the core of that.
It's pretty special though, when you have a customer who loves your coffee enough to take it to their friends and really share about it and be excited about it with you, or take it to their chef friends and then a chef gets it in their hands. And when a chef comes back and says, I like your coffee, it's good, you're doing something right. I mean, that feels really incredible. And we've been blessed again with friends who have taken our coffee up to Des Moines and given it to, the Grateful Chef up in the Des Moines area. And, she features it in her shop. And it's those relationships where somebody likes your product enough to say, that this is special. You should check this out. So, we're super appreciative of every one of those customers who has given us an opportunity and shared with friends, family, and the like.
I think what she's trying to convey, and it's so true, is that even when we go into a grocery store like Hy-Vee in Indianola, I went back there a week later, and I think they had sold maybe 2 bags of coffee, and so I was super nervous. And we have a couple friends over there that come here and buy coffee from us. So we thought maybe the word could spread a little bit. But then 2 weeks after that, they called and said, well, okay, we sold everything, that we had put there. And it's just, it's really, it's kind of exponential, because if somebody buys 1 bag of coffee and they have it at their house and 3 of their friends come over for breakfast or something, it's really like a grassroots kind of exposure for us. And that's really how we wanted it to happen. And so, we don't really use any gimmicks. We don't really we use Facebook and Instagram for advertising. We don't really even have a real website right now. It literally goes to our online store. These are things that we're going to develop over time, but we just, again, wanted to really focus on really good coffees and roasting them properly and hope that the word would kind of spread. And so it's moving slowly, but the reception, I don't think we've had any complaints about our product. And so that's kind of like, and we stand behind everything. I tell the restaurant owners, the cafes, even the grocery stores, if you ever have a problem with any of our coffees, we'll address it and fix it right away. So, but that hasn't happened. So
there's definitely an educational piece that comes with a specialty coffee roaster coming into your town. We have had folks when we're doing tastings or whatever, when they come up to our booth and they see our pricing, which is very reasonable for the quality of coffee they're getting, but they're comparing it maybe to something like Folgers. And so there's an educational piece, and we say, just try it. Let me tell you about this origin and what you're going to taste in it and why it's special and how you might want to grind it and brew it at home, and all those little elements that make a big difference in what it's going to taste like. So there's an educational piece. But it's pretty exciting when you have somebody come up to you and say, oh, well, I've always drank this and I'm not going to change. And then they try your coffee and they become a regular, they love it. And you make a Folgers customer change over to a specialty roaster.
I would say about half of what we do is education. And that, that even leads directly into the equipment and stuff that we sell, because we, very often we get new customers and maybe they've had our coffee at the farmer's market and they buy a bag or they buy 2 bags and they take it home. And then the next week they come back and they say, I made your coffee at home. It just doesn't taste the same. So we get into a long conversation sometimes about, okay, what are you using to brew the coffee? Where's the water coming from? What's the temperature? What is, right out of the gate, what is the ratio that you're using to brew the coffee? Because all of those things are very basic standards that we have, in the specialty coffee industry. But most people just haven't been taught that stuff, So we really like to share, the education piece as part of, it's really the best marketing that we have for our product is basically educating people what it, how to brew it and how it's supposed to taste, on your kitchen counter.
Absolutely. And I love the whole grassroots marketing effort too, by the way, because for me, it's like really fun to be like, have you heard of Pammel Park Coffee Company? You have to try their coffee. So there's just something fun about that. And I think people really embrace that as well. Well, changing gears a little bit, you mentioned your kids and how you were selling coffee out by the road with them, but they are definitely a part of this. And obviously, this has been a big transition for them, moving from the city to the farm. Talk about how they're involved in this and what that transition has been like.
So when we first told them that we were leaving Minneapolis and moving to rural Iowa, it was sort of a mixed bag of reviews that we got from the kiddos. But they very quickly made the transition, and they're thriving in the schools, which is incredible to see, making good friends and all those things that you want. Part of what we were looking for, again, when you're making a move of that magnitude is a complete lifestyle change. And we lived in the heart of Minneapolis. And so they went from a very urban lifestyle to, four-wheeling through the prairie grass and hanging out with the goats and, all those things. And it was something that we really wanted for them to have a completely different opportunity in the country. So in that regard, they've done really, really well. As far as the business goes, that's been really exciting to see too. In Minneapolis, they would often have lemonade stands.
Oh.
And so when we made the first little coffee stand and put them out there, that was their business. They stood out there and they were the ones selling the coffee. Our first customer ever was a young couple from Des Moines who was coming down to Pammel Park to camp. And they said they saw the kids there and they were so cute, they had to stop. So they actually turned around, made a U-turn, and came back when they saw the little coffee stand. And that was our very first bag of coffee we ever sold. And I remember as the couple was driving away, the kids were cheering in the driveway. And it was just a really fun, special moment for us to see them, sell our first bag of coffee and be excited about it. And then ever since then, it's been an ongoing thing where they really, really help with all the different pieces, whether it's working at the farmer's market stand with us or putting labels on the bags. It takes a team. I mean, they're part of that process. Our oldest daughter, who's the teen, she'll tell me, she gives advice on the Instagram posts and the Facebook things, and helps us shoot video and all those little pieces. Every one of the kids has their piece that they help with. Our youngest daughter is a little social butterfly, so you can send her out with samples at Hy-Vee, and she'll do that. Our youngest, our son, middle son, he can brew coffee. He helps with all the elements. So they're all a really key piece of this business. And again, I think that's something that's so special. The community sees that and they want to support a small local family business. So that's been really special to us, is having them be part of our business.
I love it. Well, what would you say to someone who's thinking about taking a big risk like you guys did? I mean, you totally transitioned your whole lives. What advice would you have? What challenges have you encountered that you've learned from that you might want to share about?
I would, as far as advice, I don't know. We this is the first time that we've, I guess, owned a business. And obviously, the main thing is that Naomi and I work really well together. So we knew that eventually we would end up doing something like this. And we tend to complement each other in terms of, the tasks that we take on.
Brains and beauty.
Yeah, a little bit of that. But we also we both have a really kind of a strong work ethic. Like both of us almost always have to be doing something. And so that's really what it takes. I mean, we may not be making a living right now, but we're working 12, 14 hours a day just to keep this business going, and with the promotion and maintaining our existing clients. And so personally, my advice, and this was kind of part of our plan, was that you really got to start small. You may have really big ideas, but if your business goes into all kinds of debt right out of the gate, and you don't make it, it's gonna it's gonna be a really big problem going down the road. So I mean, the finance side of it, I guess I would say know where your money's going to come from, but don't overextend yourself, and try to grow at a reasonable pace, because I've seen a lot of businesses fail, especially coffee roasting companies, where either they go too big right out of the gate with equipment and this kind of thing, or they take out $1 million bank loan, and it's going to take you 10 years to be able to make that payment just by growing it organically. So maybe our version doesn't work for everyone, but we definitely had a plan. Even if it wasn't completely detailed in writing, we knew exactly how we wanted to do what we were going to do. And some of it we make up as we go, based on changes in the market or whatever it is. But we had a specific plan, and we kind of stuck to it, and we definitely wanted to be small, and grow slowly. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So I would say, in this particular business, and with any kind of service industry, so to speak, customer service for us is absolutely number one. I mean, next to your product. I mean, that's if you treat your customers right and always put them first, I think that in the end things will work out for the best.
Agreed. I mean, I also think, there's an element to, if you have a dream, you just got to go for it and take that jump. We quit our, quote, real jobs with real insurance and moved our entire family here on the chance that this would work. And we always figured that, worst case scenario, we'd figure it out. We'd pack it all up and go somewhere else and get the real jobs again, or whatever it took. And so I think that sometimes you just got to go for it, because it's what we wanted for so long, and we always thought we could do it. We had his past experience and some of my past work experience. We just felt like it would really work together well, and that we could make it. And so sometimes I think there's just an element of like, take that leap of faith and really go for it. The worst that can happen is, you got to start over again. And so what,
Yep, totally agree. Well, what's next for Pammel Park Coffee Company?
Good question. So right now, like I said, we have probably 15 what we consider like real accounts, wholesale accounts, but we're also selling coffee retail out of this shop on occasion. I think now that the farmers market is done for the season, we're going to try to be open at least a couple of days a week, where we do some kind of special event or sale, or equipment demo, roasting demos, that kind of thing, where we're bringing people in. That's, for us, that's been kind of the most successful avenue for getting our coffee out there and getting the feedback that we want. So I think we'll increase the traffic here in our shop, but we're going to get a little bit more aggressive on the sales side. So I mean, we're definitely going to be reaching out, places like Adel and some of these, Creston and some of these other towns that are a little bit further out. Because we feel like that's really our market, and that's really what we set out to do. So, in the next year, I think we would like to basically double our client list. And at some point, that might be enough for us. We don't want 100 customers. We want 30 good ones is really how we set out to do this thing. And we want it to be a family business. I mean, at some point, maybe we have to hire somebody, but between the two of us and the three kids, right now we're roasting, about 200 pounds a week. So, if we get to about 500 pounds a week, I think we can sustain that for, at least 3 to 5 years, with the current staff, the family staff. But I don't know. I mean, you say what's next for Pammel Park. That's our plan. But, building this space and getting our license in June and being where we're at, 4 months later, basically, was kind of the best case scenario for us. So we're really happy with how things are going. Obviously, we're going to eventually need some better financing and this kind of stuff because we have a lot of money tied up in green coffee and equipment. But for now, we're just going to continue to grow kind of at a slow, organic pace and really continue to just focus on good coffees.
Good coffees, good customer service. Yeah. Keep that business plan moving forward. I love doing some of the special events. My background is in catering and that sort of thing. So I can see us doing more weddings and, farm to tables or all those really unique events that can highlight good quality food and coffee. So I would love to see us grow that way. We feel so blessed to be where we're at right now. And we just want to, keep that momentum going for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and I love that you're opening up your farm here too, where people can come and buy coffee, and you actually have coffee supplies here too.
Yeah, so one thing that we realized right out of the gate, especially here in Winterset, Madison County, was that there was a kind of a void and a lack of coffee equipment, even basic good brewers and grinders. You really can't find them. I mean, you can purchase them online, but we immediately kind of knew that we needed to add that as a part of our whole product line. So, we're an authorized dealer for Bonavita brewers, Baratza grinders, and Chemex pour overs. And for us, those are like, those are the three pieces of equipment, along with nice scales and things like that you need in your kitchen to make good coffee. And so it's not a huge revenue stream for us. We don't make a lot of money on the equipment, but it's part of our service and our package to bring people in here and get them enjoying good coffees at home.
Absolutely. So what about the customers, our listeners who don't live locally? Are they able to purchase your coffee online?
They are. Like I said, right now, even our website is pretty primitive, but it's literally pointing to our Square store online where all of our coffees are available and the equipment is on there too. So that's honestly one of the avenues that we want to kind of expand. And our first sales were really online to people that we knew, family and friends all over the country that had heard what we were doing and wanted to try the coffee. And a lot of those people still order, for example, 5-pound bags. I mean, if you're a real coffee drinker at home with a family, that's the best way to buy coffee from us, honestly, because you basically get wholesale pricing and it shows up at your door 2 days later. But we haven't really been pushing the online store quite so much. So that's definitely an area that we want to expand, like nationwide, because we feel like, we may not be the greatest coffee company out there, but we feel like our coffees can hold their own against just about anything that's available. So it's a good way to try stuff, and a good way to get some good pricing and coffee delivered to your door.
How can people follow along with what you have going on and let us know the link to your website too for anyone who wants to buy that way?
So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, Pammel Park Coffee Company. And our website is pammelparkcoffee.com.
All right. And we'll be sure to link to that in the show notes so everyone can check those out. Well, you guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This was a great conversation, and it's great to have you as guests.
Awesome. Thanks for having us and sharing a cup of coffee with us.
Yeah. I loved hearing Matt and Naomi talk about the power of a supportive community and partnerships with local businesses. I've been able to witness that firsthand, and it really is a special thing. If you haven't had a chance to try Pammel Park Coffee yet, head to their website and place an order today. The link is in our show notes. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back here next week. Have a great day, everybody.